All right, so I've got a couple questions about setting up some things in Unity for getting things built for 3D. Our 3D modeling class, we use Unity as our world building, kind of where we place items so we can run around in it. And some students are having problems with the updates of Unity don't have the standard assets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a regular scene. Let's go ahead and add a project. Actually, excuse me, hit cancel. And later, we want to do new, and we'll do new. We'll just do a quick test name because I won't delete this folder. Test project. Now, what we want to do is go ahead and use the standard 3D scene and not any of the high defs or the other formats that they have. They got rid of the lightweight rendering, which is good. So now that we have something more, looks like we're moving into a more universal render pipeline. So anyway, regardless, make sure you put it in the folder that you want. And it's in this project folder that I use all the time. I'm going to hit create, and we'll either pause or cut this part of the video out. We'll pause. Okay, so I got my basic Unity scene open, and what we want to do is go into the Unity store, the asset store. Now, you may need to actually go into the web pages of the World Wide Web and go look it up, but that's okay because you may need to actually either log into your account on here, log into an account into the actual software, whatever, but you'll need an account with Unity and the asset store for this to work. But it's cheap, as in free, and it pays more dividends than one can possibly know. So the first thing I want to do, into what we want to do is look for, just type in standard assets, and this is what most tutorials are using these days. It's this package right here. I use this package a lot. I've used it many times. Once you quote unquote buy it, it just basically goes into your asset folder. So if I go into my assets, man, the internet's slow, and it's right here. And all I gotta do now is import it in. Now, okay, so I have the standard assets for 2018.4 opened up. This hasn't been updated to all the new rendering technologies that Unity's done, and I'm sure that somebody's working on it. I know that I'll be doing it pretty soon, if anything, just for my students and myself. What I want to do is go ahead and take off things that I don't really need for my particular project. So I can go ahead and I want to minimize. I don't need any of the sample scenes at this point. I mean, if you're learning Unity, take it all and just use it once. But if you put it in a bunch of scenes, know that the Unity folder will grow very quickly. My Unity folder is about 15.5 gigs, and I only have like maybe 8 or 9 projects in here, so I'm not going to look it up right now. But go through all these things. It's good to have one Unity scene open. Again, you need to use the generic 3D scene for Unity unless the actual universal system takes it better. I need to test that out. If you're going to use certain things in here, such as the characters, which I'm going to use, definitely. I'm not going to worry about the cameras. I'm not going to worry about the 2D side. Want cross-platform. I don't really care about the editor. I'll keep the effects. I'll lose environment. Lose the fonts. Keep particles. Not worried about the physical materials right now. I'm not worried about prototyping, and I'm not worried about vehicles either. But if you use vehicles, you'll need this utility folder. This one you definitely need regardless. So make sure you have these folders. Inside the characters folder, we want to keep everything that we have selected into the base setup. We're going to be focusing on just the third person. So I'm just going to grab the third person character controller, and this is all I'm grabbing from the scene. All of the Unity scripts, the utility scripts. I'm going to pick up the effects because there's some cool things in here that I like to play around with. And there's some shader technology that I want to learn, so in terms of getting it converted into the new rendering technologies. So I'm going to have that sit there, and let's go ahead and just say import. And if this takes a minute, which the last time it did, I'll go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so everything's in. We can check by looking in our assets folder. We'll see our standard assets. This is all the things that I brought in from this folder. Let's say that you need to bring something in, like say we forgot a particular folder, you can re-import everything, and when this assets unfolds and downloads and goes into your temp folder and pops up, everything you have in your current scene will show as an uncheckable item because it's already there, so it won't override anything. So you can even go in here and change some things, and I'm guessing it won't overwrite it, but I'd be very careful and always make backups no matter what. Now, let's get this scene basically set up real quick. And let's go in here. We're going to add a terrain. The terrain's offset. It's at 0, 0, so the location's at 0, 0. So what we need to do is offset it by negative 500 because it's 1,000 by 1,000 units. And we're doing it in the X and the Y. And so there's that. What we need to do now is go into our characters. Third person, which is the only one I brought in. We're going to go to the prefabs. Make sure to use prefabs because in the prefabs we have a whole bunch of items in here that we really want to have access to. And what it includes is the rigid body. It includes the capsule collider, the script that runs the third person character, and we need to actually find those real quick. They seem to be lost, and the script that runs the actual controller. I believe those are in the utilities. Let's see. I think it's it's there. It needs to compile, so I need to do some double checking. Last time I did this, it worked pretty fine, but that's how we can get started. Let me pause it real quick and see what needs to get fixed. Okay, so the error that we're getting here, if I go into project and I double click on where I'm getting errors, let's go ahead and hit play. So after some research and some digging and realization of some errors, I'm not sure what those two scripts that are causing the problems. If I hit play, I get those compile errors. I double click on the error and I go here, simple activator menu script. I double click on it and it's right here, and I've updated it. What we need to use is UI.image instead of GUI.text. Yet I'm not getting it called down, and so the other option was to go ahead and type in using Unity Engine.UI, and this would mean to call in this library of tools, which is where this supposedly resides. But then I get an error saying that this is a redundant statement and I don't need it. Do not need it. So fix all occurrences. So it takes away it'll take away the UI and get canceled because I'm not really sure what I'm doing with this. But I know that it's telling me that this is not used, this is not needed for this script. And then this is coming up as an error saying that I am actually calling up something is that a namespace error, which I was trying to actually use using the Unity Engine.UI. I have to do more research. I found an easier solution. Let's go ahead and close this and hit don't save. And the other tool, the other script is the simple mouse rotator.cs. I'm going to close both those and just minimize my script editor. I'm going to go into my project. Because that's in the utilities folder, which is just fairly generic, I'm going to go ahead and locate rotator input and activate simple activator menu and simple rotate. Or is it the smooth mouse? Let's see. I just closed it, but look at recent. Is there a recent? There we go. Activator menu and mouse rotator, simple mouse rotator. So I haven't actually done all the testing on this yet. So simple rotate menu, I'm just deleting it. It's going to go to the trash can folder so we can re-import it if we need to. And simple activate menu, delete. These are the only two areas where I can find the GUI text and GUI.texture references. Because when I did a search for the whole script editor, so give it a second. Hit play. Our camera is not tied to our character, so it won't follow the character. So let's go ahead and change that real quick. we're going to go ahead and select that camera. We're going to drop that camera into the third person controller, just like to nest it in here. And then we need to change the tag to main camera, so that should actually allow us to actually drop this in here, and it should follow the character, but we'll see what happens. Yep, it's following the character. I'm not getting a mouse look, I'm using the WASD to rotate my character, and that's because of that mouse rotator script, but it'll work for right now. I don't understand what's going on with this thing, other than the fact that it's an old asset package and we're using new Unity, so we'll have to look it up more.